Today I am very happy to be able to feature a vehicle that you, the viewers, have been asking for quite some time. This, my friends, is a 2021 legal way for Mercedes-Benz to print money. No, this is a 2021 Mercedes-AMG GLB 35 4MATIC SUV. But it really is a way that Mercedes is going to make a buttload of money by offering something affordable with pretty decent tech, good performance, and in a form factor that works for a lot of buyers. Now, under the hood, we have a AMG enhanced 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, produces 302 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque, and this is using Mercedes' 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. But what is the Mercedes-Benz GLB class? Well, it uses the same MFA2 platform that we saw with both the A-Class sedan and hatchback, the CLA and GLA. However, unlike those vehicles that are all subcompact, this, my friends, is a compact luxury crossover. It slots really in between the GLA and the GLC. In fact, the wheelbase on this is 10 centimeters longer than the standard A-Class, and when you compare it to the GLC, it's only 22 millimeters shorter overall. So it fits in really well if you're looking for something that is bigger than these subcompact vehicles, but not quite as expensive or large as the GLC. The idea of this really is to be a smaller GLS, the big flagship SUV from Mercedes-Benz. If you were to park the two of them side by side, you can see a lot of resemblances between the two. The overall shape and silhouette is similar, this being a much boxier version than what Mercedes is doing with their vehicles. That's why a lot of people like it. They say that it kind of looks like the G-Wagon. I don't really think so. But the idea is it's boxier, it's bigger, it's a little bit more functional for younger people like me. Plus, depending on how you configure it, you can have a 7-passenger setup. That's right, a third row behind the second, giving you 0 trunk space, but you can fit more people in it. Our vehicle only has 2 rows, so we can only have 5 passengers in this one. Now, our vehicle comes pretty well equipped. This is what Mercedes-Benz calls an influencer-grade vehicle. We have the premium, navigation, and AMG driver's packages on this vehicle, along with the AMG night package and 21-inch AMG multi-spoke matte black rims. I gotta say, it looks pretty cool. Now, this might not be the one that you want. Love it or hate it, the GLB does represent an important segment for Mercedes-Benz, and whether you like the fact that this is a baby AMG or not, it's going to be up to you. But let's be real, folks. The whole point of Mercedes-Benz to make this vehicle is to make money, and they will be making a lot of it because this is an affordable vehicle with a lot of the tech that you would get at the higher end vehicles without having to spend a whole lot. If you think about it, $66,000 Canadian, about $60,000 in the US, pretty well equipped, especially when you consider how much space you have on the inside. And people love to say they drive an AMG. That's why BMW, Mercedes, and even Audi are offering more vehicles with their performance badges on it, even if they're not really performance versions of it. This is an AMG tuned engine, has an AMG tuned suspension. So it doesn't come from the AMG plant, but most people will still appreciate it regardless. But that's about it for me on the outside of this. Let's take it on the road. We'll talk about the interior. It's pretty similar to every other Mercedes that we've driven, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about how it performs, drives, and handles, and everything else you need to know if you're in the market for a Mercedes-Benz GLB class. So what can I tell you about the drive of the Mercedes-AMG GLB 35? Well, before we get into it, fuel numbers. This completed our 100-kilometer test loop in 7.7 liters per 100 kilometers. How does that compare? It doesn't matter really, because we haven't driven anything that truly matches what this has to offer, because yeah, again, we talked about the dimensions on the outside. This is just a little bit smaller than a GLC, but we featured the GLC 43 and has more power, and again, doesn't really compete with this. And then if you think about BMW, we've driven the BMW X2. That doesn't really compete with this. BMW X3, we did the M competition as well as the plug-in hybrid, so those don't compare. So really, that's the number that we got. You know, compare it to whatever else you found on the market. But until we do other vehicles that are kind of in this category, it's going to kind of be out there on its own. And I guess that's a good thing for Mercedes. I mean, they're offering something that nobody else really has. You can't get a vehicle quite like this in the marketplace, regardless of whether it's a luxury brand or not. You know, when I posted these online, some people said that this really reminded them of a Honda Element. And now that I've seen that, I can't unsee it. And same goes for something like, you know, like the first or second generation Subaru Forester, that was more of a wagon, a lifted, not really lifted wagon, but like, you know, imagine a regular station wagon, but with like a really high roof line and big windows and stuff. That's what I feel this is. Yes, it is technically a crossover, but because the ride is so low, it feels more like those types of vehicles. It feels like a box on wheels that, you know, is easy to get into. It has good seating position. It doesn't have a car seating position. You know, you absolutely know you're driving a crossover, but it is low to the ground. So it just feels like, you know, Scion XB, Honda Element, you know, these weird kind of boxy vehicles that don't exist anymore. This has that kind of feel to it. And again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just different, and I think it's good that Mercedes offers it, because if you want something a little bit more SUV tradition, go with the GLC. But if you want something like this that is unique and you want the third row, go with this. So we don't have it on here, as I mentioned, but it would have been nice to test it out. But anyway, that's the fuel economy stuff. That's the exterior. I do like the look of it. You know, even though I think it looks like a Honda Element, I still like the look of this vehicle. I think it's functional. It looks a lot like a smaller GLS, which is something that we mentioned. Not a bad thing there. Interior works. Once you've driven one Mercedes, you've driven all the Mercedes, because they just keep using the same interiors on absolutely everything. So there's no real change there. There's nothing spectacular about the inside here. I do fit very well, especially compared to the other vehicles on the Mercedes MFA2 platform. You know, something like the A-classes, I was really tight in there. It was functional for a big guy, but you know, it wasn't ideal. I certainly have a lot more space in here. Good headroom, good legroom, good width, everything. The seats are comfortable enough. We have the AMG Dynamica and Artico seats. In the States, they're MB Techs. It's the trade name Mercedes uses for their leatherettes, so these are leatherette seating, but it works. We've got the AMG steering wheel with the Dynamica as well. Drive unit on there. You can play with the little screens to set them up. I have this set up essentially in full Sport Plus mode, but with the manual shift mode, so you got some controls there, and it works. I mean, it works as a baby AMG. You're not fooling anybody. This isn't going to be a C63 killer, and I personally would just take the GLB 250. I don't think you need to go up to the AMG here, but obviously they're going to sell them. And I did have a lot of people checking this out. We took it on a mini road trip the other day, and I had a lot of people looking at it because it is sort of different. You see a lot of them, but I haven't seen too many of the AMG versions of the GLB. So yeah, it's kind of unique in the marketplace and somewhat affordable. I know it's 66,000 Canadian, it's a lot, but you know, you can definitely add on more packages. You know, you can add on the HomeLink system and all sorts of other stuff, enhanced safety tech like adaptive cruise control. But we have kind of what most people would probably be looking at if they were buying this vehicle. All right, well, I would be a bad host of this show if I didn't do some performance testing. I'm going to turn off manual shift mode. I know this is an 8-speed dual clutch, but I just find that they don't shift as well as they should. Not quite launch control. We're revving at 2,500 RPM. Wow, I was kind of slow off the line. Okay, I lied. Manual shift. And 100. 6.81 seconds. Now, I believe this is supposed to do, what, 5.9? That off the line was not very good there. I don't know if that's because we were using sort of launch control. So let's try it once more, just to see, maybe we can get some better results. You can see it's raining a little bit out here, so it's not ideal. Put on that was raining, and system's ready to go again. Well, see, I don't want the brake hold. That's the problem. There's so much technology on these cars that you're kind of stuck dealing with it. So let's just go. Ooh, again, I'm not shifting this time. 6.59, so slightly better, not a whole lot better, but what can you do? Again, the idea is I don't think anybody's really going to be racing this car around. The idea is you're getting the top end trim for the GLB sold here in North America. It's sporty, it sounds pretty decent for a 2-liter. It performs well. Handling on it is good too. You know, I mean, it's similar to other vehicles we've tested in the baby AMG kind of market. You're getting decent control. You do have some options as well. I mean, you know, we can go to manual shift mode. We also have 2 settings for the suspension. You've got the drive modes, the AMG Dynamic. So there's some options there to be able to tune it and play with it the way that you want. so you've got controls there. But for the most part, yeah, I've been happy with this from the sense that it is a good daily driver, not necessarily a good entry-level performance vehicle, because yes, I have kept it in manual shift mode, I have kept it in Sport Plus mode, I have driven it around pretty much exclusively in town in that mode. However, when I'm driving it on the highways, you know, when I did my little road trip, I just kept it in comfort mode. It worked well as a comfort vehicle, and it works well as a family holiday. The space on here is quite good. You know, as we've talked about before, when it comes to these smaller vehicles, you lose out on space, but Mercedes has definitely maximized the interior space on this, and I'm very impressed with that. So yeah, overall, I've been happy to be able to drive the GLB. It's a car that I've wanted to get into for quite some time now, and I'm glad I've gotten into it. But as I said, I personally would go just for the GLB 250. Unless you absolutely need to go for the performance version of this, you know, there isn't anything wrong with it. Just like when we featured the A35 hatchback, you know, it offered a nice little performance upgrade compared to the regular 250. But it's going to be up to you. You're going to be the one that decides it. But if it was my hard-earned money, I'd just get the normal one. I'd be happy with that and call it a day. But there's not much to fault about it until BMW comes out with something bigger than the X2. If they come out with like an X2 long wheelbase or X2 active tourer like they do in the European markets, you know, then we really don't have anything to compare this to, because nothing else exists in this segment. It's on its own. And sometimes is a good thing. But if you have any questions about this Mercedes GLB 35, please let me know. Leave a comment below. I do try to get back to everybody within about a week or so of posting, but I do try to get back to everybody. So leave your comments, give a thumbs up to the video if you liked it, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Until next time, thanks for watching, and take care.